Good afternoon, lacrosse fans, here from the TCF Bank Stadium on the campus of the University of Minnesota. Today's game features the University of St. Thomas, from the great city next door of St. Paul, versus the University of Minnesota Golden Gophers. This MCL matchup features a Division I team in University of Minnesota versus Division II St. Thomas. St. Thomas, number 1 overall in the MCLA Division II. Yesterday's game featured the University of Minnesota versus St. John's University, Minnesota coming on top 12-8. My name is Ben Mooney. My partner in the booth today, Dustin Clark, an alum of St. Thomas University. I'm an alum of the University of Minnesota myself. Dustin, what do you see today's game?
Well, obviously the weather's going to be a factor. That should kind of level the playing field here moving forward. I think we got good matchups, you know, the strength of St. Thomas being their defense, and of course for the Gophers being their offense, especially those attackmen and those short stick midfielders coming down from up top. So we should see a really good battle on one side of the field. I think the big question mark for the Gophers is, can their defense hold strong against this potent offense of this St. Thomas team?
I was really surprised yesterday when the Gophers played against St. John's. Did a great job of recovery on the field, their defensive play. Saw a lot of man-down situations, kind of a sloppy game throughout the first half of play. Last week, St. Thomas played St. John's in the annual Tommy-Johnny matchup. They found themselves victorious, but they were up by 6 coming out of the halftime break and surrendered 6 goals to St. John's. They were able to level the playing field. St. Thomas, came out on top. But this should be an interesting matchup. The weather is going to play a factor. Driving rain, about 32 degrees, so these players are going to get soaked, and it should be an interesting matchup here once we get going.
Yeah, we saw both teams retreat to their locker rooms periodically during warm-ups rather than staying out on the field the entire time. Definitely saw a few passes go to the ground, some missed shots. You know, those guys are babying their sticks right now, trying to make sure nothing's going to bag out on them before the game gets underway.
And right now we've got Steve and Jan Jenkins addressing the crowd here, if you will.
Or maybe lack thereof.
Yeah, it's nice to see this facility being used here at the University of Minnesota, right on the campus here. Usually we'd be indoors, and this is the one time I'd say it'd maybe a little bit better to be indoors, but it's nice to see the University of Minnesota getting the recognition they deserve and getting to play in the TCF Bank Stadium.
Yeah, and if they hadn't had this game booked weeks in advance, they probably would be considering maybe the Metrodome or a different indoor facility. But the university committed to making this weekend happen. You see they've cleared the snow off the field for the weekend games, and it's good to see the teams are dedicated doing this. Obviously the Memorial Tournament of Chris Jenkins is going on for a few years now and just been growing.
From our vantage point here, we can actually see the practice facility here that's been given to the University of Minnesota Sports, and it's a great facility. It allows them to play year-round inside, and right now we get to stare at it as a nice, warm, cozy interior, but I'm not going to complain about our confines right here being up in the box. A couple key players to look for here today during today's game. University of Minnesota, yesterday's standout players, and they have been throughout the course of this season. Sam Swanson, number 4 midfielder, face-off, good offensive all-around player. Goaltender Cody Kamarowski, number 6, made a very group of nice saves yesterday. Gave up a couple man-down situational goals, but other than that, a really solid performance. On the clearing end of the game, Ross Chikontic, Simon Gondek, good job on helping defense and offense out with clearing the ball. And obviously Sean Lee and Chase Fisher. Sean Lee on the attack and Chase Fisher at the midfield.
For St. Thomas, we've got, as it's been the last couple of years, a bit of a tight race at the goaltending position between number 4 Ryan Zeilinger, the junior, and number 10 Stephen Bang, the senior. We've seen in these close games Zeilinger's gotten the nod more often than not, but they do tend to split time fairly often as well, so we might see Bang starting out in the first half, possibly Z coming in for relief in the second. We've got number 12, Ben Vasco, the senior defenseman. I think he's been named either Defenseman of the Week or of the month once already this year, playing a very good season. Sophomore midfielder, number 27, Matt Clevin, last year tallying just over 15 goals, and I believe he's already surpassed that mark as his sophomore campaign gets underway. Number 43, also a sophomore midfielder, John Michael Kuhn, maybe one of the smoothest athletes we'll see on the field today. And then, of course, the big hoss, number 92, Giuseppe Palermo, the junior face-off midfielder who's got the big righty shot from up top. So expect to see those guys definitely in the mix for St. Thomas.
And Giuseppe Palermo is going to get my nod for the all-name first-team performers this season at MCLA.
Yep, he's a graduate of Totino Grace High School. I believe he went out east for one season.
He did.
And then comes back here and has been playing more or less in his hometown and doing really well, especially this year. He seems to have gotten himself in pretty good shape this year, and obviously continuing the dominance at the face-off X. But I think Coach Moosbrugger, and especially the offensive coordinator for St. Thomas, Coach Horn, really like the extended mobility he's brought to his game this year.
Another Minnesota athlete that found himself heading out east to play lacrosse out of Delaware. Number 50, Chase Fisher, the midfielder for University of Minnesota Golden Gophers. Nice ball carrier. Does a lot of the offensive side of the ball for the University of Minnesota. And came back to Minnesota, a Minnetonka High School graduate, but came back and chose to attend the University of Minnesota, which is nice to see.
Definitely. Chase, I think, brought not just some skill and some talent to the midfield here at Minnesota, but a little bit of confidence. I think, they definitely had the sense this year with the new coaching staff and some new personnel all around that it was going to be a rebuilding year. But then we had transfers from, like you mentioned, Chase Fisher and even Teddy O'Reilly, another Minnetonka graduate, transferring to the University of Minnesota halfway through this year. And I think they feel very confident they've put some pretty good pieces together on the offensive side of the ball.
Now, having coached here myself, I coached a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, and I played here during my college playing days. But yesterday was one of the most solid defensive performances that I had seen in several years by this program. Obviously, they have talent on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think, new head coach Rich Limpert has done a great job kind of changing the tone a little bit this year and getting the team, ready to play. They did come up short in a couple of games on a recent trip down to Arizona, but I think they've learned a lot, and the team's starting to really come together. There was the singing of the national anthem here at the Chris Jenkins Invitational. Is this the 6th year they've been doing this tournament?
I believe they started off 6-7 years ago, although Chris's passing has already been 10 years. And, great teammate, great player, great guy all around. So it's nice that they were able to put this in his memoriam.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to graduate from Eden Prairie High School, which is, of course, the same high school that Chris Jenkins graduated from. Never had the pleasure of playing with him directly, but all 4 years I was there, we had the Chris Jenkins Memorial Award. Both Chris's parents are very active in the Eden Prairie and the U of M program. It's been kind of a silver lining to that situation.
He has impacted many lacrosse players, not only here at the University of Minnesota, but lacrosse fans and players all around the Twin Cities metro area. Two teams face one another here. About to get underway.
Yep, we see the referees. They're full head-to-toe rain gear. I'm sure they're going to be fighting to stay warm just as much as those players and coaches are on the sidelines. Can't quite read the number on the starting goaltender for St. Thomas. I want to say that looks like number 10, Stephen Bang. starting in net. Maybe as time passes, we'll be able to get a confirmation on that. It's hard to tell. They both stand about 5'4" in nets.
And we're underway here at the face-off. Possession going to go in the favor of the Gophers here.
Gophers already switching up, getting their first line offensive midfield on. Good midfield defense there by St. Thomas. No success on the ground ball, though, as it stays Minnesota ball.
Always a great matchup here. Good Twin Cities matchup.
That was Sam Swanson, number 4 for the Gophers, getting D-twigged. St. Thomas picks up the ball and looks to clear.
Something we didn't see yesterday was seeing Sam Swanson actually invert there from his midfield position into the attack position.
That looks to be Palermo just edging the ball up the sideline there, moving it around. That was Chapala swinging it back, trying to get it through behind the net. Starting attackman for St. Thomas today should be number 3, Pete Carbonneau, and possibly the Burke connection, David and Danny. Brothers separated only by 3 years, both coming out of Edina High School.
Key to this game, I believe, is going to be how Kamarowski comes out of the first couple minutes of this game. And he's going to see a lot more shots than he did yesterday versus St. John's.
Definitely, that's one thing that St. Thomas has done a lot of so far this year. It's been more quantity than quality in terms of the shot total for St. Thomas. They had a game a couple weeks ago against Indiana Tech where they put up almost 70 shots but could only find the net 7 or 8 times. So that's definitely something they've been working on. I'm sure Coach Horn, who's one of the biggest proponents in the state of the 13-yard bomb squad, is probably trying to get his team honed in a little bit. So that will definitely be a big test for the U of M goaltender. And there's a shot that rings off the post from the far side. U of M's going to look to clear.
Sam Swanson back on the clear for the Gophers.
Bit of a 5-on-4 fast break there. U of M has numbers.
That ball's thrown away by Sam Swanson.
But he wants that pass back.
A little too much standing around there on the part of the Gophers offense. Now I was going to mention to you, Dustin, before we had the turnover by the St. Thomas University, was actually, they do a great job of spreading the field out. Coach Horn has these guys making the slides for the defensive opponent as long as they possibly can. They do a great job of spreading the field, finding their one-on-one matchups, and going to the cage.
Yep, and of course with the rules having changed a couple of times over the last 2 years in college lacrosse, I think the new rules this year allowing the offenses to really spread out, like you mentioned, it definitely favors a team like St. Thomas with their speed and athleticism at the midfield, being able to play a much bigger game.
Gophers defense forcing the St. Thomas offense down a wider alley than they had hoped to see, but they're still taking these shots and keeping Kamarowski on his toes. Quick feed up top. That ball drop by the St. Thomas midfielder.
I have a feeling that might not be the first fumbled pass we see today with this weather. There's one of the Burke brothers cutting through the crease, moving it behind.
Minnesota is still doing a good job on their rotational defense. I still think they're going to see a lot more shots. St. Thomas does a great job of moving off ball as well. Not a lot of standing and shooting, mostly moving off ball, taking their defender with them.
You see number 1, Will Hurstman there with the sweep dodge, and both of his midfield line mates creating space, coming underneath as he swings all the way around with the stick in his strong right hand. No success on that shot, so the U of M's going to look to clear the ball. Gutsy pass there all the way across the field, but that one connects.
Ball initially picked up by number 40, David Dickey. Standout in yesterday's game against St. John's.
Good double there real quickly by the long poles of St. Thomas. Sees the back of the ball carrier, steps in for a quick double and recovers back to normal positioning.
Sean Lee with the ball here for the Gophers. It'll be interesting to see how quickly they double Sean Lee when he possesses the ball.
St. Thomas certainly not being shy about pressing the ball way outside of the box there. Gophers initiating that last dodge about from the 50-yard line, but that short stick midfielder from St. Thomas following them all the way out to the 45. Interesting low angle shot. I think he's got a backup. Gophers are going to maintain possession.
Teddy O'Reilly dodging underneath.
Former St. Thomas attackman, played just fall ball in his freshman year at St. Thomas this year, but maybe found a little bit better fit at the U of M, although I know I speak for everyone at St. Thomas, and they say they were sad to see him leave. He would have been a great asset to the team this year, but we're seeing him do pretty good things for the Gophers as well.
Got a flag down situation here.
Looks like we're getting a 30-second push call, if I saw that right, going against the Tommies. So EMO opportunity here for the boys in white, the home team.
Look for number 50, Chase Fisher here, near side midfielder.
Yeah, I actually had the pleasure of working with Chase outside of lacrosse, and I know he was battling the flu pretty hard this week. And in my conversations with Coach Rich Limpert, he said that was kind of a common theme for the team this week. There's a lot of guys battling the flu, so I'm sure this cold weather game is not what they wanted to see, but a great shot there coming from number 4, Sam Swanson, the senior midfielder and captain from White Bear Lake High School.
Yeah, one step toward the cage, shot, bomb, goal.
I think the key to that shot was just that he got it out of the stick quickly.
In any case, 9:44 remaining in the first period of play here. Minnesota 1, St. Thomas 0. Putting themselves on the border first here. Pretty important goal here for either team. Kind of a withholding here. Ball going the way of the Gophers.
That one looks to be called against junior defensive midfielder Nick Regenovich, aka Gino. Getting that holding call at the face-off X. And of course, the new rules this year stating that if any face-off player gets 3 violations in one half, they have to serve a 30-second penalty. So that's just the first one on Gino. We'll see if he cleans up his act a little bit here in the remainder of the first and second quarters.
Well, already we've seen less errors on the field. Much cleaner play than we saw yesterday between St. John's and the Gophers.
Looks to be number 2 attackman Danny Burke coming all the way up to the midline to relieve his defenseman of possession of that ball. Getting it back down behind the net. St. Thomas is going to try and go to work from X. Here sees Danny Burke's older brother David Burke working the left hand, coming across with the feed. Good save there. Komorowski just going down to one knee to stop that ball from going in, and now Gophers are on their horse trying to bring it down the field. I think this
Look for Komorowski to make a couple big saves here early. He eats up a lot of ground from the waist down. Did a great job yesterday, and you've seen him make a couple big saves today already. Sam Swanson once again finding himself at X or just on top of the crease. Looking to pop. Good check there by the St. Thomas defender.
Field looks slippery out there today, Ben.
It is. It is. It's got a nice layer of moisture on top, and it's been sleeting or raining for the past couple hours. We got another flag down situation here. Then we're going to have a slash call on St. Thomas. Going to give the University of Minnesota another man-up situation here. 7:45 to play in the first quarter. Minnesota on top, 1-0.
I think Minnesota is going to do good if they can make sure to really just enjoy possessions of the ball. And I mentioned at the top of the game that I think the offensive-defensive matchup might favor St. Thomas just a little bit on their offensive end of the field, but certainly the Gophers have plenty of firepower themselves, and if they can maintain possession of the ball and try and limit the amount of touches that those offensive players for St. Thomas get, they should find themselves in a pretty good situation come the fourth quarter of this game.
I agree. Sam Swanson here, quarterbacking the Minnesota man-up unit. Quick skip pass is going to be kicked away.
See, that's Chase Fisher making that pass with his left hand. Maybe possibly the rain getting the best of his stick there. Just threw that one a little low.
Also just an unforced error. I mean, it's a skip pass that doesn't need to be made. at this point in the game.
Well, you talk about unforced errors, and there you go. An eye for an eye, I suppose. And here comes Fisher on the quick restart at the midline.
I shouldn't have mentioned anything about the clean play. Should have, Dustin. She's left it alone.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, one thing that I really appreciated about the rule changes this year was U.S. Lacrosse going back to that quick start.
Quick feed inside, backed up. Number 23, Eric Fong. Another skip pass, finds Fisher.
Eric Fong, just a freshman attackman this year, is that correct? Yep, coming out of Wayzata High School. Played, of course, for a couple different all-state teams in his high school career.
Similar size to his attack partner, Sean Lee, number 25. Worked really well in tandem yesterday. St. Thomas possessing here. St. Thomas seems to like that 2-2 set.
Pretty stubborn individual effort there coming through the middle of the field, but shot on goal nonetheless. I think it looked like he might have had somebody open on the backside there in that back post, drawing that double team in the middle of the field, but decided to take the shot. Here's Fisher from up top, about 12 yards out with his left hand. Whether that's Stephen Bang or Ryan Zeilinger in net, have not quite got confirmation yet, but failed clear there for St. Thomas. And here comes Sam Swanson again, restart from up top.
2 consecutive clearing errors there. He just get his defenseman backpedaling. It's a difficult area to be in when you're trying to catch and clear.
I think a situation that's made even more difficult here, of course, with the rain. It's starting to feel like a broken record. But maybe a timeout call?
Yep, we've got a timeout call by the University of Minnesota. With 5:16 remaining in the first quarter, University of Minnesota 1, St. Thomas 0.
So far, I think pretty even matchup. Obviously the scoreboard's going to support our claim, but we've seen a lot of back and forth action. As you mentioned, St. Thomas, a couple failed clears there at the end of play there in the first quarter, but I think I'm curious why they called that timeout, I guess.
Yeah, with 5 minutes left, it's not a man-up situation right now. We possibly just to figure out what kind of offense they're running. At this time in the game, usually, 10 minutes into the first quarter, you can see how matchups are turning out. You can see what the defense is doing to your offense and where you're having success or where you're having some failures. So it's actually not a bad timeout, but you also got the whole second quarter to figure that out, change up your offense or any areas that may need to be cleaned up.
Yeah, a lot of times a situation like that, a one-on-one situation in the corner, well, not a lot of times, sometimes you might see a coach calling a timeout just to simply save possession for his team. I don't think that was the case there, as it looked like the ball carrier wasn't really having too much trouble with his defender, but who knows, maybe the Gophers coaching staff have a play drawn up for this situation. We'll see if they come out with anything specific here for the restart here coming off the timeout.
Could have been also a younger player finding himself behind the cage, not necessarily in a position of comfort. In any case, going to find the ball back in the Gopher stick.
Gophers look like they maybe went back to their first line midfield here. Okay.
And an immediate turnover here. No flag down on that play. Now we have
a flag at the midfield. Can't quite tell which referee is where, but that lead referee down in the far corner, I think if there was to be a flag, probably should have been his responsibility to throw it rather than the midfielder, the trail referee up at the substitution box.
Are you referring to the official wearing all black, Dustin?
One of three. So here it looks like we're going to see a free clear for St. Thomas. Chance for them to knock this game at 1 with just about 5 minutes to go in the first quarter.
St. Thomas running a set we did not see a whole lot of yesterday, back in their 1-4 man-up set. Pounding the ball around the exterior.
I think St. Thomas really likes some of the sticks of their attackmen inside.
Great setup, shot and a goal.
As I'm talking about the inside matchups, here we get a shot from the perimeter.
Interesting set there. They went in from a 1-4, rotated into a 2-2, and found the trailer, a little skip pass. He had all day to fire, beating Cam Rowski on the bounce shot.
Bounce
4:40.
shots.
Sorry about that. 4:45 remaining in the first quarter of play, evening this game at 1.
I was going to say, you know, on this artificial turf, with the rain, the bounce shots are a little bit advantageous today, especially if you can maybe have that 3/4 high release, something coming off the shoulder or the hip. You'll see the ball skip pretty good today on this turf.
You're going to see a lot of bounce shots. We saw a lot of bounce shots taken yesterday, sort of tying up both goaltenders.
Here's the U of M continuing to be successful at the faceoff X, at least in terms of picking up that ground ball. St. Thomas midfielders certainly fighting hard to win possession back.
Another failed clear on the part of St. Thomas. Going to give the ball back to the University of Minnesota. All 3 times, Dustin, these players have been backpedaling for about 5 or 6 yards.
Yep, and I think, you know, again, there we go. I was going to make a comment about the weather. I wanted to hold up because I feel like it's all I've talked about, but I think some of those passes, you might see these guys complete on a normal day, but
we've got an injured player in the field here. You could hear it up here in the booth. It sounded like a helmet-to-helmet situation, but hopefully he can regain himself. He's got to come off the field here, but we wish him the best.
I don't see a flag on the field anywhere.
It seemed like an inadvertent hit. He may even hit his own player. I believe he is going to have to come off the field due to the whistle. Even if the rules didn't call for it, I believe it's probably the best situation for him to come off the field and get checked out.
Yep, and there you see the officials ushering the injured player off the field. I want to say that is maybe number 3, Pete Carbonell, the starting attackman, but again, the purple numbers on black jerseys, a little difficult to see way up here in the press box. I see by process of elimination, we've got one Burke, number 7, here on the near side.
Good luck with the rest.
Successful cross-field clearing attempt here by the Golden Gophers.
Certainly made that look easy.
Teddy O'Reilly here on the drive.
You see St. Thomas not giving Teddy even an extra inch anywhere to operate. They want to make sure they stay on his hands. Mr. O'Reilly being the former Mr. Lacrosse award winner during his senior year at Minnetonka.
It's interesting here with O'Reilly, Fong, and Lee, excuse me, all players essentially being the same size, same height, and similar build. So all 3 little clones of one another. They move the ball well, they hold the ball, and they're sort of getting sync with one another. All 3 players young. That shot right on, goes low and left.
A bit of a David Goliath matchup, just in terms of size there with that attack line you mentioned. I mean, St. Thomas definitely has some size with their 3 starting long poles.
Also a lot more physical on the behalf of St. Thomas players.
Here we see another inverted play. Number 41. Well, that wasn't an invert. That was Teddy O'Reilly with a mismatch, getting a shorty behind.
Teddy O'Reilly still drawing slides even without the ball. Gophers looking to reset the offense here.
Just about 2.5 minutes remaining in the first quarter. There's an unforced error by the Gophers. Number 21, Chris Erickson. Just not quite able to put that pass on target. St. Thomas is going to have a chance here to clear. Looks like they're in no rush. Maybe look to here for a timeout. You know, you might see Coach Horn wanting to draw something up here, but I wouldn't expect it right away. But if they maintain possession towards the end, oh, and there you go. No need for a timeout when you have midfielders who could do that.
That shot beating Kamrowski to his 5-hole area, putting St. Thomas on top by a score 2-1 here with 2:04 remaining in the first quarter.
Other than that shot being on the run, it was pretty similar to St. Thomas's earlier goal. Saw a shot from about 10 and 10, I think, on that right side, bounce shot. It's 10 yards up and 10 yards out from the net.
You know, the defensive midfielders here for the Gophers, they're not doing a bad job of funneling these offensive players from St. Thomas down the lanes, but St. Thomas is doing well at shooting on the run from, you know, less advised angles, and they're still putting them on Kamrowski, and they've been successful so far.
So we've got 2 minutes and 4 seconds on the clock here in the first quarter at TCF Bank Stadium. The referees just getting set here on the field.
Both benches alert, awake, and doing a good job chirping at one another.
Look to be possibly Rajenovich there on the faceoff, pushing it forward. Looks like St. Thomas will have at least one more possession here before the end of the first quarter. We'll see if they hold for the last shot. This might be a situation also where you see the referees calling for a timer on situation.
Agreed. That shot once again coming to the left of Kamrowski, beat him low to the right. Putting on St. Thomas on top by a score 3-1 here with 1:31 remaining in the first quarter of play. Exact same shot and angle that St. Thomas has scored 2 times in a row.
So we see 3 bounce shots and 3 goals for the University of St. Thomas in this first quarter.
It looks like the St. Thomas midfielders have found the right equation for beating Kamrowski here on the run.
I think that goes along with what you were saying earlier, Ben, about Kamrowski really covering a lot of ground. If they're able to take advantage of that tendency of his to look low, the bounce shots are certainly going to be a good tool for them today.
And also getting a goaltender to move at any point is the best way to beat him.
Yeah, I think the University of St. Thomas would do well just to keep those sticks on the midfielders, maybe get some lifts. Try and just deter those shots from the outside, as St. Thomas has proven at least 3 times that they can shoot from outside, and twice even just shooting on the run. An awkward play there, but successful nonetheless as U of M comes down. Now we've got 50 seconds left on the clock. We'll see if U of M tries to call a timeout here.
Sam Swanson kicking that ball to the center of the field by Chase Fisher.
I suppose the U of M already burned 1 timeout, so calling another
Just to
one here.
mention, going back to that 5-minute mark, Swanson with the shot right on, misses low to the left, backed up by Eric Fong.
.30 seconds here now on the clock. As the U of M is no doubt going to look for the final possession of the quarter. Maybe trying to get an ISO up top.
Got a flag down situation here. 2 flags down.
Laundry all over the field.
Now you wonder if the University of Minnesota isn't going to be content just holding the ball and taking possession back in the second quarter of play here. 5 seconds here with the whistle. Excuse me, 4 to correct that.
That was number 13. He's a senior but junior eligibility midfielder from Roseville High School, Matt Sanaki, drawing, I think that was just 1 penalty that we saw 2 flags for.
That looks to be the case. We're going to see the Gophers just hold the ball and take possession into the second quarter play here. And that'll do it for 1 quarter of play here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, on the campus of the University of Minnesota, TCF Bank Stadium. St. Thomas 3, Minnesota 1. We'll be right back. And we are back here for play. It's the start of the second quarter here. University of Minnesota in a man-up situation. Ball going to be started the near side.
No face-off here. Start this second quarter, as we saw first quarter ended with clear possession going to the University of Minnesota. It looks like the clock operator accidentally ticked 1 second off, so we're going to have a timeout on the field until that gets fixed, or they're just going to give it an extra second before they start. So here we are underway in the second quarter.
An open 3-3 set here by the Gophers. Quick feed inside, knocked down. Once again, Sam Swanson quarterbacking the offense. Snocky feeds underneath. We're going to have a loose ball hold on St. Thomas. Ball going back to the Gophers. Chase Fisher to collect it along the sidelines.
That was number 7, Ben Nash, on the inside, just getting held, according to the referees.
That skip pass knocked down by the long pole of St. Thomas. Once again, just unnecessary skip passes. Gophers rotating into a 1-4-1.
There's Matt Sanaki calling for his ISO.
Known for his speed. Kicks the ball ahead.
And there we have St. Thomas defenseman looking to clear the ball, getting it to the attacking. Don't have a numbers advantage here for St. Thomas, so they're going to slow the ball down and make sure they get proper personnel on the field.
Back to a 6-on-6 situation here. St. Thomas looks to be moving the ball around this quarter, even though they've only had it for a few seconds, but it's going to be pounding that ball around with a little more intensity. Good defense on the part of Sam Swanson.
Definitely holding his ground there. Made it look easy. St. Thomas's MO has always been dodge and redodge. Let's see what we've got here coming from up top again.
Precipitation is stopped so far here at the start of the second quarter. Flag is down.
This will be the first penalty against the Gophers in the game.
Looks like he earned that flag.
Referee showing a lot of conviction that throw.
Got a clear out situation.
So kind of a free possession here for St. Thomas. There's David Burke working the ball behind. The captain of the offense here, especially once they get ball behind the net.
Once again, that ball comes shot from the outside. Bounce shot beating Kamarowski. 12:37 remaining in the second quarter of play. St. Thomas 4 and Gophers 1. We've seen 4 similar shots beat Kamarowski. This one taken from the center of the area of the field, but in any case, all 4 shots beating Kamarowski off the bounce.
There is St. Thomas winning the faceoff, hitting the ball back down to the offense. There's David Burke moving the ball over to Matt Clevin, who gets it all the way to the other side. Pick up top here, that looks to be Palermo. The penalty, of course, still holds here for the U of M. St. Thomas in a 1-3-2 set, counting from up top. Somewhat interesting set, being man up. I know a lot of coaches that wouldn't jump right to having 2 players behind the net. I think St. Thomas really likes the feeding ability of their starting attackman. It's a good skip pass across the field. Ooh, good stick there by the Gopher defense to knock that shot down. St.
Thomas definitely has the talent to put the two players behind it, look to feed or shoot.
Here is Matt Clevin calling for the isolation up top, trying to go to his left, bang the ball around. Looks to be Giuseppe Palermo on the right side, trying to set his feet and drop the head of the stick. Looked to be an attempt at a low-to-low, off the mark by a good few feet though on that shot. But no harm, no foul, as St. Thomas has somebody backing up the shot to maintain possession. Interesting skip play there. Here we go, the U of M looking to clear the ball. It is Sam Swanson again, bringing the ball down. Moving it to the attack. Teddy O'Reilly with the ball now. Brad Dubnik, one of the guys on your list of players to watch. Looks to be maybe Sanaki again, initiating from up top. No. Number 9, Joe Chu. U of M showing some good poise and patience here with the ball, not getting quite the looks that they want. And here we've got a illegal screen called against the Tommies, so the Gophers are going to maintain possession. And there is Simon Gondek, number 15, picking it up on the restart.
It's important that the Gophers give their defense a little bit of a break here, a little bit of a breather after playing defense for several solid minutes.
Almost a deflected pass into the net there on that play.
Another unforced error on the part of the Gophers.
It's Brad Dubnik. It looked like he wanted to pass and then maybe second-guessed himself. Ball just kind of squirting out of his stick. Looked like the Gophers are going to have a chance to break up that St. Thomas clear, but St. Thomas does the work and gets the ball over the midline. Got just about 9 minutes to go here in the second quarter. 4-1 lead in favor of St. Thomas. As you mentioned earlier, Ben, we see St. Thomas really stretching out the field, keeping their midfielders, at or above that 40-yard line.
It just makes the slides a lot longer. Players have to work a lot harder, be in position. Coach Horn for St. Thomas, known for his, his fundamentally sound offense, but also some creativity. This ball going to be attempted and kept in bounds, but it's going to go back to the maroon and gold.
There's Gondek again on the restart. Going to go to his right hand. Can't quite hold on to it. There's Dubnik trying to come in, clean up the pieces, which he does.
Now that the precipitation has slowed down, the errors have picked up.
Ooh, great feed inside there. The Gophers. And there's that physicality by the St. Thomas long poles that you mentioned, Ben.
It's a good clean slide. Didn't come up high, kept his arms down, didn't extend. It's a difficult area to catch a ball, especially when you're that size. We were referencing the size of the attack for the Gophers.
Here we see the Gophers going back into that inverted set. As their attackmen come up top and their midfield come behind.
You're going to get Sam Swanson for stepping in the crease here. Going to go back to the Tommies.
Swanson certainly selling out on that dodge. And we have the successful clear for St. Thomas.
Good one-on-one defense here.
Well, as you say that,
call. Yeah, number
they're-
33, Connor Gattenby for the Gophers.
I was going to say, Ben, apparently the referees disagreed with you on that.
Yeah.
On that opinion.
Good hit along the end line.
Not too many complaints about the referee so far in this game. I've seen maybe a couple calls that were borderline, but they seem to go both ways. So don't necessarily have a problem with that. I think referee certainly could have no called that last penalty, but deciding he didn't like the extension in the arms of the defenseman. So throwing the flag, and here St. Thomas is going to get a man-up opportunity and a chance to stretch their lead to 4 goals.
These two teams very familiar with one another, and also the teams are also familiar with the referees. These guys are all local, coached or officiated many of the games these guys played in high school.
Good look up top there.
That shot's going to beat Kamarowski over his stick side.
And like you mentioned earlier, just good fundamental lacrosse from Rob Horn's squad. You see the crease player coming through, drawing the attention of that defender on the crease. And the feeder from behind just looking right over his shoulder to the big shot up top, which was wide open, and no need to bounce that shot.
Looks like we've got an area of contention after the goal was scored. St. Thomas, during the celebration, the Gophers taking issue probably with the area of celebration by the St. Thomas players, but in any case, St. Thomas 5, Gophers 1, 6:39 remaining in the second quarter of play. I was not able to see the player who scored that last goal for St. Thomas. This is an important part of the game, Dustin. 6:30 remaining. A 4-goal spread here. It's important that University of Minnesota understands that they're still in this game. They got a lot of time left, and not to get too down on themselves, and make sure they keep talking positively and not start chirping at one another on the defensive end.
Definitely, and I like what you said earlier about allowing the defense to get a rest. That's what the U of M offense needs to do here, is let the defense kind of rest up, get a breather, hopefully not make any unforced errors. Give them a couple minutes here and hopefully generate some offense.
Especially with Coach Rob Horn spreading out his offense as much as he possibly can. Tires out those defensemen even more.
Good 2-man game behind.
Oh, one-handed shot there by Sam Swanson. Was able to slip through the defense of St. Thomas.
Pretty incredible individual effort. The swim dodge right at the goal line kind of redeemed himself for stepping in the crease just a moment ago.
Sam Swanson, known for his swim dodge moves while clearing the ball, and also at top at the midfield position, but they've been inverting him more than I've seen lately, and that time it paid off.
Definitely, and of course, Swanson being a senior captain of this team, he feels a certain amount of responsibility anytime the team is behind, so there we go. U of M scratching 1 goal off that lead, making it a 5-2 game, just over 5.5 minutes remaining in this opening half. Quick fast break face-off here for St. Thomas. Not going to be able to take advantage of the numbers, though, so they'll retreat behind the net.
These two teams seeing each other during their fall ball activities, so a lot of these players know one another growing up in the Twin Cities area. It's good to see these annual games being played, no matter what the Division I or II here in the MCLA.
Yeah, it spurs, I think, a great. Well, I hesitate to even really use the word rivalry because, of course, these games, not necessarily counting for the in-season standings, since we have a Division I, Division II matchup. And a lot of these guys, of course, having played high school ball together, more of a friendship than a rivalry, I think, between these two programs.
Agreed.
Oh, good look up top. Good movement by St. Thomas, but just unable to connect.
Both of these programs having outstanding facilities. There's a display of that recovery defense. Quick shot. Kamarowski's going to eat that one up.
Yeah, big shot from, I think that was outside of 15 yards. I would imagine Rob Horn might have a couple words for his midfielder there as he comes off the field.
Not the shot St. Thomas was looking for. In any case, they find themselves with the ball again. 4 minutes to play here in the second quarter. St. Thomas 5, Gophers 2.
Yeah, the U of M offense not doing too poorly. I mean, taking advantage of some of the chances they're getting, but it's the clearing game for the Gophers that are going to struggle. And there we see St. Thomas tallying one more here at the 3:45 mark. 3:45 remaining, that is.
That was number 7, Mr. Burke, beating Kamrowski again on the bounce shot. Off stick side. Extending their lead to 4. St. Thomas 6, Gophers 2. 3:45 remaining here in the second quarter of play.
The first couple face-offs of the game we saw go to the Gophers. St. Thomas have actually done a tremendous job of getting that face-off percentage back up. I'm surprised we didn't see a flag there.
I am too.
It seemed a pretty big hack there by St. Thomas attackman, and that was number 23 for the Gophers, Eric Fong, kind of looking up at the refs, confused as to why there was no flag as he took that stick check to the back.
It wasn't even a loose ball push. I always laugh at that argument that the ball was out. Well, your hack caused the ball to come out. There we go again, Mr. Burke firing on Kamrowski, beating low to the stick side. Another tally for St. Thomas, extending their lead to 5.
There's that shot that kind of comes off the hip of David Burke as he drops the head of his stick, goes left-handed from this near side of the field. And a little, not even really a bounce shot, just a skip shot from where he was. A real tough save for Mr. Kamrowski.
Well, maybe we were wrong, Dustin. We referenced Coach Horn not being possibly in favor of that 15-yard bomb. That was just but it looks like they're actually planning to shoot from 10 to 12 yards here.
Yeah, you might be right.
Letting half the ground do the work for them.
Yeah, generally speaking, on these artificial surfaces, it's a little easier, I think, for the goaltenders to read the bounce. Certainly easier than it would be on a grass surface, which would be much more uneven. But of course, as we mentioned earlier, once the rain comes, this stuff gets pretty slick, and those shots can pick up speed. So here we are, 3 minutes and 3 seconds remaining on the clock in this first half, and I believe that was a timeout called by St. Thomas.
That was called by the Gophers. In possession down here, I believe.
Yep, we see the refs checking some sticks, making sure they're still legal for play. It's the new stick rule this year, saying that college players not allowed to have a shooting string below, or I should say more than 4 inches below the top of their head. We saw a lot of guys kind of scrambling to find their comfort zone in terms of how they string their sticks during the fall season. I think at this point, though, they've all got it figured out pretty well.
It was interesting. I was coaching in the MCLA when that 2010 rule came about for the heads. A lot of the players were worried about the hold of the ball. NCAA actually made it easier for these players to hold the ball.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell now if we're getting rain that's falling or rain that's just blowing off the rooftops, as it seems to be coming in sideways.
That's what we're known for in the spring here, is sideways rain, driving. Makes coaching less than desirable. I was wrong. St. Thomas called that timeout going into break.
So if I'm counting correctly, that means both teams have still 1 timeout remaining. 3 minutes left to go. We still have plenty of action here in the first half at the TCF Bank Stadium.
Chris Weber math would give 1 more timeout each to these players, or teams, excuse me.
Here we see St. Thomas coming out in their 2-3-1 set, counting from up top. They try and push the alley and roll back. Bang it to the backside here.
Oh, great split dodge. There's going to beat Kamrowski to the lower left side.
That was a great hitch there on the far side. Gets that sliding defender to bite on the shot. Just steps high side into the middle of the field, opens himself up for all the time he wants, and puts one far side off the hip of Kamrowski.
Not much you can do there as a goaltender with that bomb of a shot.
This is, again, I think the message for the Gophers has to be possession, possession, possession. Let's try and keep the ball out of those attackmen stick for St. Thomas and give our defensemen a rest. Of course, it starts at the midfield here with the faceoff.
You know, it's easy to say when, you know, when you've got a tie score or you're up by a goal or two, and you get a team that their energy's up on the bench. But what are you going to do when you're down by a couple goals? You need to have that energy on the bench. You need to have that. You know, the ability to maintain, whether down a couple or up a couple.
Great ground ball effort there by the University of Minnesota. And here we're going to get a timeout right away called by the Gophers staff. 2:19 on the clock here in the second quarter. 8-2 St. Thomas. Let's see what the Gophers have to draw up when they come back from this timeout. I think you're definitely going to see their first line personnel on the field. Likely see probably Sam Swanson, maybe Brad Dudnik.
My guess is we're going to probably have Chase Fisher at somewhere on the field.
Probably on that far side. He's got a pretty strong left-handed shot. I think they like him over on that far side from our vantage point.
The challenge here as a coach, especially for the Gophers, you've got to keep your players warm. I haven't seen a lot of offense, and you got a lot of players over there hopping around trying to keep themselves warm.
And that's a good point, because as much as a defense can get tired from having to play a lot of defense, and offense in a game with conditions like this can get cold and can get tight. Of course, they're no doubt getting rained on, but sometimes that can throw a funk in your game just as much as playing too much and being overexerted.
But also being down by 6 goals here with the second period of play coming down to an end here. It's, you know, it's difficult to keep that energy up. That's going to warm you up as it is. St. Thomas players don't seem to be cold at all right now.
Nope, and there we see Chase Fisher starting the ball. We've got Matt Sanaki in the top center at the midfield, and Sam Swanson on this near side. Look to be in something of a man-up set. Comes Fisher on the far side. Big shot there by Sam Swanson, but to be a relatively easy save.
Goaltenders at this level expected to eat shots like that up.
Got a minute 45 here remaining. There's Bo Mackey clearing midfielder for St. Thomas, getting the ball over the midline. So we did our math right, and they have one more timeout remaining. Wouldn't be surprised to see him use it here, although as I say that, they throw the ball out of bounds. Another unforced error for St. Thomas, and you see Sanaki here on the restart for the U of M. Of course, Tommy's looking to double the ball. Good pass over the top there to Sam Swanson. Minute and a half on the clock. Sanaki up top, and move it over to Fisher.
Fisher's got to start using his speed and his size to his advantage. Hasn't done a whole lot of dodging yet this game.
U of M certainly taking their time at the midfield. Maybe trying to let things develop. There's Teddy O'Reilly getting up to Sanaki, who looks to shake a defender loose.
Sanaki can turn that ball over.
On that one. And then we've got 50 seconds on the clock as St. Thomas was looking to maybe push the ball in transition, but calling a timeout instead. So we've got 47 seconds to be exact remaining in this first half. St. Thomas with the timeout, so they'll start the ball the top left of the box from the goaltender's vantage point.
If my Minnesota math serves me correct, unforced errors, St. Thomas with 9, University of Minnesota with 8 this far.
So pretty even in that department.
Yeah, I mean, the game's kind of going in waves. Started off clean and got a little ugly at times there, but St. Thomas definitely coming out and pounding the ball around. They started off the game with far more unforced errors than the University of Minnesota. Once they cleaned that up, they started pounding some goals past Kimorowski.
Yep, you saw St. Thomas tally 3 goals in the first quarter and now 5 more in this second quarter. So definitely finding their zone a little bit more here in this second quarter.
And based on where they're shooting from in the field, I don't feel that they're all done.
Hopefully the only thing that's going to be done here soon, Ben, is the rain. I'm sure both these teams wouldn't mind. I suppose at this point it doesn't matter. They're all soaking wet.
They're wet. They should all be warm. Both teams with an extended warm-up here. Good job on the coaches to get their players out, get them warm, get them used to the elements, and then get them in, give them a little breather. Halftime is going to be the telltale sign of how these teams come out of the break.
And again,
Before we can get there, got to get the rest of this half underway. 47 seconds remaining here with St. Thomas with possession.
Seems to be an invert. Not the kind we're used to seeing where a midfielder goes behind the net, but this time I believe that was attackman coming above and dodging downhill at the net. An errant pass, but St. Thomas battles back. I just saw a timer on situation here by the referees, or at least they've got to keep it in the box here for these last 30 seconds. Good look up top. Not going to be enough. It's good midfield defense by the Gophers.
10 seconds remain here in the first half of play. Good feed underneath, good slide. As that ball's going to actually slip by Kamrowski. Rolled onto the goal line. We're going to have an official call here. No goal on the field.
I think that was a good call.
I do too, but I believe we had the best vantage point of everybody.
Except for that we're pretty far away, but yeah, we definitely had a clear look at the net. That ball certainly touching the goal line, but the refs are going to come back here and compare notes and see what they saw. I think they got it right, though. I don't believe that ball rolled all the way over the goal line.
Not sure how they're going to confer. They don't really have replay to use.
Short period.
At least on the field. But Dustin, wait and see if your phone rings. 3 seconds remaining here in the first half of play. And that's going to do it. So after 2 quarters of play, St. Thomas 8, University of Minnesota 2. We'll be right back.
And we're back here at TCF Bank Stadium in Minneapolis, Minnesota, the home of the University of Minnesota Golden Gophers, hosting MCLA Division II #1 ranked St. Thomas. So far in the first half, we've seen a score of St. Thomas 8, Minnesota 2. I think the play has been a little closer than what the scoreboard indicates. It just seems that the Gophers have kind of shot themselves in the foot a couple of times on some clears. Let up a couple of soft goals on shots from the outside. And that really has been the difference in this game so far. Ben, you mentioned the unforced errors being within 1. Both teams in that 8 or 9 range.
Correct. I think the biggest difference is that St. Thomas has been able to capitalize on those errors by Minnesota, and Minnesota is not.
So we'll see how this second half punctuates the first. We start the second half of the face-off at the center X. Pretty clean game so far, not too many penalties. The refs have been fairly consistent on both sides of the ball, both teams rather. There's that unforced error, #1 for this half by St. Thomas. Let's see if the Gophers can clear the ball here successfully.
Got a goaltending change here by Minnesota. Turn the ball, cage back over to freshman goaltender J.D. Braun out of Wayzata, Minnesota.
I think actually St. Thomas followed suit with that decision, and I believe that is Ryan Zeilinger, #4, the junior goaltender in net for University of St. Thomas. There's Chase Fisher up top with a big lefty shot. Zeilinger happens to be up to the task. Not sure what the whistle was.
Got a flag down here on St. Thomas.
Oh,
Putting the Gophers up. A man-up situation.
I think it's certainly easy to critique from up here, but maybe Chase Fisher puts that shot off the turf. We saw St. Thomas come out of the gates, 4 bounce shots, 4 goals. Be wondering if the U of M can can kind of take a page out of their playbook in that respect.
Yeah, you've got to look at your past successes here, and St. Thomas definitely had success putting the ball on cage, definitely off every bounce shot, 4 goals in a row, basically putting the same spot in the cage.
Is that Cutter coming down the crease for the U of M?
Shot taken an odd angle by Swanson.
Close call there on the race to the end line, but the Gophers are going to win possession.
It's been Ben Nash starting with the ball to the back right. That shot taken from an odd angle by Swanson, excuse me.
I believe his second goal of the game. As a little mistake on the scoreboard reads St. Thomas 9, Minnesota 2. There we go, as they get it corrected. Now a 5-goal game in favor of St. Thomas. Definitely a well-placed shot, I think, by Sam Swanson. Kind of a low angle, but he comes straight over the top with a stick and puts it low and between the legs of goaltender Zeilinger.
The angle hasn't been an issue for either of these teams. Not a lot of goals coming from within the first 10 yards right in front of the cage. Most of these shots have been coming from on the run, but mostly bounce shots have been what's been ailing these goaltenders tonight.
There was St. Thomas with only a momentary victory at the face-off X, and the Gophers coming up with a hard-fought ground ball.
J.D. Braun calling for the ball there.
Looks like Connor Gatenby, I think that was number 33, short stick midfielder, battling for that ground ball.
Another quick unforced error, ball being kicked around in midfield.
A very good effort by Brad Dubnik, one of your players to watch for the game. Here he is stepping the ball into the box.
I believe that last name is pronounced Dubink.
Right you are. A great move there.
In
Get
case the
inside.
Gophers come out running and shooting. That ball missing just the low left. Backed up by number 23, Eric Fong for the Gophers.
Looked to be number 15, Simon Gondek. With the good individual effort to get through a couple slides and get that shot on net. Well, not on net technically, but shot towards the net anyways.
In the general vicinity.
U of M definitely coming out with a little more snap this half, just in terms of their settled possession, really moving the ball around the perimeter well.
They weren't really given an option. That goal spread, they needed to come out crisp. They needed to come out running and firing, as you just referred to. Fong controlling at X. Gophers doing a great job of having the ball around the perimeter and giving each of their players a touch.
Probably going to need to see a shot soon here. Haven't seen a timer on yet at all today on either team. We'll see.
Quick, great feed underneath.
Good cut there. Not sure if that was Teddy O'Reilly coming around on that far side from the X position.
I believe that was Eric Fong.
Fong, the
Moving around the
freshman,
ball.
showing some good IQ there, finding the open space on that near side.
That was one thing we didn't see the Gophers do a whole lot of, is moving without the ball. Kind of stationary. That ball taken from the angle shot. Just the low right. Backed up by number 23, Eric Fong once again. This is an important possession. You got to tire out the St. Thomas defense.
There's that dreaded skip pass, although this time they had the luxury of it being tipped by St. Thomas, so the Gophers are going to maintain possession. And there's Brad Dubink starting with the ball here in the near wing.
Quick roll underneath. Quick turnover there by number 20, Dubink. St. Thomas comes back on the break.
There you see the athleticism of the St. Thomas defense. Can't make out the number from here, but that long ball certainly wheeled up that sideline once he got the ball on the stick.
I don't think the numbers matter too much. I think they're all so athletic back there at the pole position that knowing the numbers, they actually look like clones, just like we're referring to the Gophers attack. That ball picked up by number 40, David Dickey. Dropped, repossessed by St. Thomas, and once again,
might stay in.
Good job of keeping that one in bounds. Both teams coming out running and gunning. Another shot from the side. This is just wide. Haven't seen much of J.D. Braun this season. Freshman goaltender.
St. Thomas trying to dodge.
Feet on
Ball
top.
behind the net. There it
Shot and a goal. It's going to beat Braun up top, extending St. Thomas's lead to 6. St. Thomas 9, Minnesota 3 with 9:41 remaining in the third quarter play.
I believe that was Pete Carbonell, number 3, senior attackman, coincidentally enough, from Minnetonka, as if we haven't said the name of that high school enough times yet today.
It's good to see. Not much that Braun could do there. You catch the ball 5 yards off the crease, there's not much you can do as a goaltender.
I think just a blown assignment by one of the long poles, sliding to the ball and somebody not filling that crease position. Carbonell certainly taking full advantage on that last shot. Here we've got a loose ball violation against St. Thomas. So U of M is going to pick up the ball and bring it down.
Haven't heard much from Mr. Sean Lee thus far.
Getting some correspondence from our sideline reporter, unofficially. Looks like it's pretty cold out there on the field. Good look
Dustin,
there.
it's pretty safe to say that if Sean Lee's the type of player that is going to need to incorporate himself into the offense here if the Gophers are going to chip away at this St. Thomas lead. Good defensive patience there. Can't get a number, but
We're going to see another violation against St. Thomas here, so Gophers will yet again maintain possession. And you count those unforced errors, Ben, as we've seen so many players drop passes or maybe just errant passes, but you know, we've seen a lot of those loose ball violations going against St. Thomas, I think, more so than against the Gophers.
which, you know, with the 6-goal lead here, it just more speaks to their aggression off the ball. So as a coach, I would take that. Shot right on, eating up with the St. Thomas goaltender.
That's the bounce shot we were talking about. That was Matt Sanaki, number 13, with that shot. I don't think he got as much pace in the shot as he would have liked.
It's a 15-yard bounce shot. The goalies at this level should eat those up. St. Thomas content to settle the ball.
And I think this, not this possession necessarily, but in this half, we should see at least one timer on. Rob Horn's defense, or offense rather, is I'm sure they're well aware of their 6-goal lead, and we'll see if that shows, if they are at all content to just kind of sit with possession on the outside until the referees force them to go to the net. Here's Will Hurstman. Saw with a big sweeping dodge to his right hand in the first quarter, that time cutting it back left, going underneath to Pete Carbonell, who gets a shot off, but deflects off the goaltender and goes out of bounds on the far sideline. And you see Hurstman again taking the ball up top. This one moved back to his left hand. Coming down, I believe that's David Chapala on the near side wing.
St. Thomas doing a great job of forcing the Minnesota defense to slide earlier than they really want to. It looked to be a feed underneath.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I think he meant to feed that clear across the crease, but
Picked off by Braun.
yeah, he certainly wasn't going to let that one get through. Good ball movement there by the Gophers. A skip pass all the way across the field, a one-time quick stick pass down to the post, and an inside shot. Made that one look easy, in fact. Great transition play there by the Gophers.
Teddy O'Reilly pounding that ball home for the Gophers. 6:50 remaining in the third quarter of play. St. Thomas 9, Gophers 4.
The rain seems to be coming down a bit more vertically now than it was in the first half. That either means it's raining harder or the wind has died down a bit. But looking over at those flags in the stadium, it doesn't look like the wind has died down hardly at all.
The way rain was intended to fall.
There was Regenovich trying to pick the ball up for St. Thomas. Unable to do so for the moment. Good battle there for the ground ball.
We're going to have a loose ball push here in St. Thomas. Ball's going to go back to the Gophers. And quickly after scoring their 4th goal of this contest, Gophers are going to put the ball back in their offensive sticks, see what they can do.
This could be a big goal here for the Gophers. They get this one and bring it within 4. Certainly plenty of lacrosse to play with 6.5 minutes remaining in the 3rd quarter. Gophers pretty much owned possession so far in this quarter, save for, of course, the 1 goal by Carbonell on the other end.
Looks like Teddy O'Reilly dodging from the top midfield position.
A little bit of an invert with Simon Gondek behind the net. Playing a little 2-man game. Back there with Joe Chu, trying to bring the ball back up top. St. Thomas playing tough defense.
Good solid defense on the part of St. Thomas. You referenced this earlier, Dustin, but it's also an important part of the game where the benches have to keep their heads and intensity into the game. I've heard a lot from St. Thomas. Gophers have been a little bit quiet. I'm sure for their coach's liking.
There was some sort of violation there. Not sure if that was a substitution violation or what exactly the call was, but regardless, the result of which is Gopher ball.
Coach Moosberger cannot be happy with the way this quarter and this half have started off. Very little possession on the part of the St. Thomas offense.
The U of M being very, very efficient in moving the ball around the perimeter. Good passing so far in this possession. Trying to get a feed up top. There was kind of an interesting little stutter step by number 15 there, Simon Gondek, the freshman midfielder coming out of Benilde St. Margaret High School over there in St. Louis Park. Yeah, a bit of a awkward move there, but beat the goaltender. I think maybe just kind of caught him handcuffed.
Caught the ball with his right hand, kept it in his right hand. The important part of that play was the feed. Sean Lee on the feed coming from Axon. We said that the important part of the Minnesota offense was to hear his name called more and more this quarter. And indeed, the Gophers whittling away at the St. Thomas lead. St. Thomas 9, Minnesota 5 with 4:30 remaining in the 3rd quarter play.
We're going to get a withholding penalty here against Minnesota. So St. Thomas is awarded possession at the midfield.
Important that St. Thomas gets a long possession here and give their defense a break this time.
Here come those alley dodges that we saw so many times in the first half. Really liking to dodge down the alley, roll back into the top side, re-dodge down the other alley.
You know, big advantage about this spread offense is it gives the offensive players so much room and time to move. Set their defender up, as we're going to see right here. That shot eaten up by Braun.
Great save there by Braun.
Great save.
A shot very similar to the ones we saw go in the first quarter, in the first half rather.
Quick outlet to Thomas Bales and an enormous hit. Flag down. That hit put on number 14, Ross Chikonik. Looked like a clean hit from up here.
I think
in any case.
Yeah, maybe just a little head-to-head contact. I think both players just going low. Didn't seem to be any malicious intent, but certainly a foul, personal foul. That should be a 1-minute penalty. So I didn't see a call on it being releasable or not, whether it was an illegal body check. Non-releasable, I think, was the call from the official near the box. So we should have a full 1-minute man up by the Gophers, if I saw that correctly.
Unless it is a 2-minute penalty, based on the non-releasable. but we'll have to wait and see here. Gophers can score at will. Another unforced error. Gophers able to collect the ball. Swanson feeding underneath. That quick shot is going to beat the goaltender. Eric Fong giving Gophers the 6th goal of the game. We've got a flag down situation here.
You know, I was watching that trail referee. I missed that goal because it almost looked like he wanted to throw a flag for an offsides against St. Thomas. Hard to tell though, because it appeared from the booth anyways that it was a loose ball situation when somebody stepped offsides allegedly.
And also the player having to be separated from number 50 Chase Fisher there. So in any case, they could have been chirping the whole way down the field.
Yep.
Official waiting to throw that flag on one of the 2 players. St. Thomas finding themselves down another player. So once the officials have this all sorted out, we'll let you know what the scenario is going to be.
Yeah, I saw the defender for St. Thomas, little extracurricular contact, but then drop his stick and go in for a little push, and that certainly there's no room for that in sport of lacrosse. So here we see no face-off, as you mentioned, dead ball foul going against St. Thomas. That first penalty being non-releasable, so still serving time for that, in addition to the second penalty, which looks to be some sort of unsportsmanlike. So here, 6-on-4 situation for the Gophers. Certainly want to capitalize here, bring this one within 2.
That shot missing just high.
Good shot though. I like their testing early and aiming for the outside of the net. You certainly don't want to put that one into the goalie's stick.
Unfortunately for St. Thomas, goaltender Zeilinger finding himself in a similar situation as last week. As their St. Thomas's lead was cut in half. Finally, St. John's tied the ball game up after halftime, but Zeilinger being put in at halftime here, seeing the Gophers whittle their way back into this game. Quick shot up top from Swanson, eaten up by Zeilinger.
Good bounce shot, but Zeilinger seemed to read that one the whole way.
Watch for Minnesota double the ball carrier here, being up by 2 men.
Good smart play.
Very smart play.
The long pole of St. Thomas there to throw it out to the perimeter. All they really want to do is kill some time here and make sure those penalties expire safely.
I believe this is where you're going to see the athleticism of the St. Thomas attackmen and their offense as a whole come into play.
You're not going to see them try to push the net in this man-down situation. They're going to be content to just play keep away behind the net.
There's nothing worse than having to play keep away against a great athlete.
Yeah, we're going to get a flag here.
This defender Dickey hanging on the back of St. Thomas attackman.
That is number 2, Dan Burke.
The Gophers are too aggressive here. They may have another flag called on them.
There is St. Thomas now back to full strength with 6 men on the field. Still a flag down, so still a free possession until the Gophers touch the ball or it goes out of bounds. Gophers have to get possession, rather.
Gophers not able to take advantage of that 2 men up situation. In fact, had a flag thrown on them.
45 seconds remaining in this third quarter. We've got a flag down right now against the U of M. There is
great feed across crease.
There is Pete Carbonneau with his 3rd goal of the game. A little dip and dunk on the backside. Not really much Braun can do about that one.
No, and that just goes right back to their movement off ball. Great job by the St. Thomas offense taking advantage of that flag down situation and Minnesota's aggression. Extending that lead to 4. St. Thomas 10, Minnesota 6 with 39 seconds remaining in this third quarter play. Rain starting to fall again.
So I believe then the penalty should be wiped off for the Gophers.
Correct.
So we'll go back to 10v10 lacrosse.
Good job so far this quarter of the Gophers putting their team back into contention here.
Definitely trying to, if you will, plug the leak, or really just, as I had said in the first half, just enjoying the ball on offense. Trying to kind of turn the tables on St. Thomas. Unfortunately, an errant pass there on the clear is going to lead to another offensive possession for St. Thomas.
St. Thomas has always had that mentality of being able to finish off their opponent. That's one thing I've always respected about that program. Is when you get that opponent down or you up a couple goals, they've always been able to step on the throats and finish off their opponent. I think they're going to have that same mindset here, being up by 4 goals. We'll see they either extend the lead or finish off this game in the next quarter as we finish off the third quarter of play here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, on the campus of the University of Minnesota. St. Thomas 10, Minnesota 6. We'll be right back.
Here we are to start the final quarter of play at TCF Bank Stadium. St. Thomas 10, Minnesota 6. Although that third quarter looked to be mostly Minnesota. A couple of quick goals coming from St. Thomas, but really no extended possessions that we saw. There's a quick shot by the Gophers. Not sure if that was something they drew up. I'm leaning towards no. I think they would have liked to control that ball a little bit longer. Good ride there by the Gophers. There's not Chase Fisher. Number 25, Sean Lee, picking up the ground ball. Getting it down to the attackman. Back up top, that's Matt Sanaki. Getting it over to the Chase Fisher. Fisher, I don't think he's tallied any points yet. Definitely no goals, maybe an assist. But I think, again, mentioning suffered flu-like symptoms for a couple of days this week, so I'm sure he might not be exactly 100%. Not a bad shot there by number 4, Sean Lee. I'm sorry, Sam Swanson. Cutting across the crease, just couldn't quite get enough muscle on that shot. Zeilinger was right there for the stop. So here come the Tommies.
Zeilinger seems to be a pretty well-composed individual there between the pipes.
Yeah, St. Thomas is definitely going to be in an interesting situation. Of course, Stephen Bang being a fourth-year senior, so he's out of the picture for next year in terms of eligibility. But Zeilinger only a junior, so he'll be back. And their incoming freshman goalies that they've been talking to are a couple of really talented kids coming out of some of the local high schools here. It's definitely going to be neck and neck for the starting job next year.
It always comes down to a good battle of where these kids are going to go to school. St. Thomas, the smaller private school in St. Paul, Minnesota, the I believe it's the second largest undergraduate population in the country. So whatever these kids like, if they want a large campus, inner city experience, or if they want a smaller St. Paul City private college, they both have a lot of things to offer.
Big
Shot right on,
shot
eaten
there.
by Braun. Sam Swanson here. Poor outlet at his feet. Minnesota with another unforced error.
I haven't been counting the clear success rate for the Gophers, but I know it's been lower than what they would have hoped coming into this game. Right now, I would probably say that's been the big difference in this game, is just those extra possessions that St. Thomas has been able to capitalize on because of the failed clears by the Gophers.
And you can't give a talented team like St. Thomas that many opportunities. They're going to come back and bite you. St. Thomas in an open set. Going to drop into a 1-3-2 once again. Once again, doing a great job of moving without the ball. You look for the far skip pass once again. They've had success with that.
And again, St. Thomas playing with two guys behind the net, but there they go, kind of in a wheel, getting back into a 1-4-1 on the dodge. Big shot off the rebound there, and a good save by Braun. Needs to get the ball out of the crease, and he does.
Braun seems to be a pretty athletic individual.
Yeah, he's looked very solid so far in this second half. Not to take anything away from his senior counterpart, sophomore, I should say, Cody Kamarowski. I would venture to guess that Coach Limpert had planned ahead of time that the goalies would split time. I don't know if he would have pulled Kamarowski based entirely on his performance in the first half.
No, Kamarowski was unfortunately just the end result. A lot of failed clears, unforced errors that we spoke about earlier, leading to a lot of those shots and goals for St. Thomas. A lot of dancing going on.
As Joe Chu trying to sweep dodge and throw it kind of back behind himself using his left hand.
Ball's going to stay with the maroon and gold here.
Going to push the net.
Got a play-on situation here through the crease.
Referees were looking to call a player in the crease there. St. Thomas picked up the ball in any case, so no call. Good couple checks there by number 20 Brad Dubink in the midfield defense.
Rap chips, they're always a gamble. It's either going to pay off or you're going to get a slashing call. One of the two. St. Thomas dropping back into appears to be a 1-3-2 from the top. That shot sailing high of Braun.
Big shot there from the midfield on the run. We've got 9 minutes remaining in the game here at TCF Bank Stadium. Score 10-6 in favor of St. Thomas. Again, St. Thomas has more of that two-man game behind. That looks to be between Carbonneau and David Burke.
Ball deflected by Braun. Gophers look to clear here. It looks like to number 40, David Dickey. Once again, ball dropped by the Gopher defender.
Good.
Picked up by Joe Chu.
Good fight there on the ground ball. Gophers are going to get the ball back.
It's the kind of fight they're going to need here with 8:20 remaining in the fourth quarter of play. The last game of the Chris Jenkins Invitational for this weekend. It's been a good showing by St. John's University, St. Thomas University, and the host team, University of Minnesota. A push call, giving the ball back to the Gophers here. Sam Swanson.
St. Thomas long pull there, got to be careful, kind of lobbing the ball up into the air. And
Chase Fisher shooting on the run.
Great
That's
shot.
going to beat Zeilinger. Good bounce shot there. Decreasing the St. Thomas lead to 3 here with 7:52 remaining in the fourth quarter of play. St. Thomas 10, Minnesota 7. Good shot there by Fisher.
Great shot. Great shot. Running across the top of the field. Left-handed shot on the run. Good placement there in that far right post, lower corner of the net. Skips it off the turf, and boom, we've got a 3-goal game with almost 8 minutes remaining. And this has really been the MO of the Gopher team so far this year. All the tough games they've been in, they've come back. They've found themselves with big deficits at halftime, and certainly no shortage of shooting power that they have on the offense. So no problem getting back into this game as they have getting back into other games when trailing.
It's going to be a test. It's going to be a good test for these guys. St. Thomas with no short of offensive prowess, and it's going to be fun to watch here for the next 7:30.
The difference is really going to be made here on this half of the ball where we see it now. And whether or not St. Thomas can kind of kill the clock and keep getting some shots on net. If the Gophers can tighten up their clearing game, this could be turn into a barn burner.
Needless to say, that was a late slide or no slide there by the University of Minnesota defense. It's got to be better communication at this point in the game.
We're going to get, I think, a timeout here. I'm not sure if that was an official timeout.
I believe the official called his time. University of Minnesota substituting. Not sure what the call was there.
I'm not sure if they called some sort of equipment violation. It certainly wasn't time serving, as we see no flag was thrown. And it didn't change possession either. They just needed to stop play for a minute, I guess. And an errant pass by St. Thomas means that the Gophers now have a chance to clear the ball and maybe even bring this game within 2 with just under 7 minutes to play.
Sam Swanson picking up that kick ball from David Dickey, pass underneath. A feed inside, attempting to find Sean Lee.
That feed by Teddy O'Reilly, I think that was the right idea. I think he just was a little late. Maybe should have looked for that cutter a split second earlier when he first flashed open on the crease. And now Zeilinger getting himself in an interesting situation well outside of the net.
That ball kicked up in the air by the St. Thomas long stick, going to go out of bounds in favor of the Gophers.
So here's Teddy O'Reilly on the quick restart. He's going to look down. Get it up top, and here's Captain Sam Swanson. Looking very poised with the ball. Certainly hoping that his teammates, or his team rather, can get the right personnel on the field here so they can attack the net. Just broke the 6-minute remaining mark. Here's Chase Fisher up top, coming off of a big goal in the last solid possession. Looking over to, I think, Matt Sanatke, number 13. Getting it down and working behind the net.
Eric Fong behind the cage for the Gophers.
Great look.
That shot by Lee, just wide. Swanson turning and winding, missing the cage just to the left of Zeilinger. Fong to bring the ball back in for the Gophers. Gophers back in their 1-4-1 set. Giving him a little more room to dodge and operate. Big heavy check by the pole that St. Thomas is going to draw a flag. This ball's almost thrown away by the Gophers, but collected by Chase Fisher here. Flag down situation.
Does well to chase that ball on the flag down. Make sure it doesn't go out of bounds. Maintain that free possession for his team. And here we see Sam Swanson wanting to get up top. I think he wants to come downhill with this St. Thomas defense. Interesting
That
feed
feed
inside.
Beautiful feed by Swanson. That's going to find Teddy O'Reilly for the goal for the Gophers, cutting the St. Thomas lead by 2 with 4:41 remaining in this fourth quarter of play. Beautiful feed all around.
We'll see what the call was in that penalty. I guess it was a pretty obvious slash.
Official addressing the box.
So I believe he'll still have to serve that penalty since it's a personal foul and not a technical.
And we are going to have a face-off as well.
since the foul was not called on a dead ball situation. So indeed, St. Thomas is going to be man down on this faceoff. Looks like they're opting not to bring an attackman up to the midfield wing.
Great end of this game.
We've got a long pole taking the faceoff there for St. Thomas.
And
Successfully,
that strategy fails for St. Thomas. It gives the ball right back to the University of Minnesota as they get their offensive man-up unit on the field.
I believe Minnesota has already called one timeout this half, so I think 4:20 remaining. I think it's a little early to look for them to call a timeout and draw anything up. Coach Limpert and his offensive assistants, starting with Tony Libra there, I think they're going to keep their fingers crossed and hope their team can create something organically without having to draw something up here.
I also think it depends on if they're able to capitalize on this man-up. A fake shot underneath. Ball back up top to Swanson. Swanson once again quarterbacking this man-up unit. Swings the ball over to Fisher. And that ball is going to be thrown away.
Hard to tell from our point of view if that was an errant pass or if Sanaki just took his eye off the ball. I think maybe he was thinking feed before he caught the pass, which is unfortunate. Now we've got 3.5 minutes left. 2-goal lead for St. Thomas as they enjoy another possession. You can see the Gophers are certainly hustling to mark up. They want to get this ball back.
I don't even remember the last time the Gophers had to play defense. It's been several minutes here, so it could play into this. We're gonna have a timeout called by, no, excuse me. We're actually gonna have a turnover. Another error, could be a bench error. Giving the ball back to the Gophers with 3:07 remaining in this fourth quarter.
So far in this half, Minnesota has outscored St. Thomas 6-2, as it was 8-2 going into halftime. So certainly some very effective adjustments being made by Coach Limpert and his staff on the side of the Golden Gophers.
Once we've got an errant pass, going to be kept on the Gopher side of the field by number 41, Teddy O'Reilly, picked up by number 50, Chase Fisher, as he wheels to the center of the field, drawing some heavy checks. Ball fed underneath. It was number 20, Brad Dubink.
A tough pass. Chase Fisher actually, I think, did well to put that one on his stick, but really had to fight that through traffic, and I think Dubink was maybe expecting that to be tipped. Makes it even harder to catch the ball when it does come through cleanly. Oh, good look inside. No good, not good enough though, as Carbonell throws that one away, seeing his teammate wide open, flashing 10 yards above the net.
We have a timeout here for St. Thomas.
I think Coach Musburger wants to talk this one over with his defense with 2 minutes and 10 seconds remaining.
Well, Dustin, this is where the strategy, I think, of the entire game is going to come into play, whether it's timeouts, but St. Thomas, if they get possession here in the next several seconds, or whether it happens to be a minute, it might change everything. So University of Minnesota is going to have to do their best to keep possession of this ball, use their timeout wisely, and hope to chip away at this 2-goal lead here by St. Thomas.
Definitely, and this is, in football you hear a lot of talk about the 2-minute offense and how it's kind of a whole different mindset. And it's the same thing in a 2-minute defense when you're down in a close game. If St. Thomas does get this ball back and gets it down to the offensive half of the field, you should see Braun come out of the net, change positions into a defenseman. They'll probably double the ball and try the best they can to knock it loose so they can get the ball back to their offense.
You two hockey players out there, it's a similar situation as pulling your goaltender in hockey. Even though you can do it on the defensive side of the ball, create that 6-on-5 defensive advantage.
Of course, that advantage cannot be carried over the midline, which is where it's a stark difference from hockey. And in any case, I believe it should be Gophers' ball here. It was an errant pass that led to the out-of-bounds whistle. So here we see the Gophers' long pole, number 40, David Dickey, senior defenseman.
David Dickey, a former short pole himself.
Good over-the-top pass there.
Finding fellow long stick Rob Drake First time we've called his name out this afternoon.
Drake, of course, coming out of what high school, Ben? Minnetonka. His older brother, or his twin brother, I should say. Pretty good player up at Duluth, I believe, this year.
Joe Chu finding Teddy O'Reilly. St. Thomas quick to double. We got a flag down situation here.
Is not a good time to take a penalty for St. Thomas.
With 1:37 remaining in the fourth quarter of play, St. Thomas 10, Minnesota 8. Minnesota about to go on a man up.
And I think Coach Moosberger will definitely have some words for the defender committing that foul.
Dustin, it is difficult to turn that energy down a bit, if you will. I mean, they've been playing such an aggressive style of defense, and they've done a great job at this so far. But the timing, there's never a good time to have a flag called on you. To ask your players to tone it down a bit at this point with 2-goal lead, it's difficult to do.
And I see now they've got Chase Fisher on the near point here, setting him up for a big right-handed shot. He's been over on the opposite side of the set. The rest of
there we go.
The game, and that was a great goal. Just a great series there by the Gophers. Kind of lulling the defense to sleep with the back and forth passing. Note that they didn't make any skip passes until they got that open man on the near post.
Eric Fong on the goal for the University of Minnesota, cutting that lead from St. Thomas down to 1 with 1:22 remaining in the fourth quarter of play.
We've got ourselves a great game here, folks, at TCF Bank Stadium. Minute 22 to go in the game. 1 goal separates these two teams. St. Thomas, can't even say enjoying a 1-goal lead, just holding on to it.
Clinging desperately, and now the Gophers bench, you can see, is up and excited as the St. Thomas bench has now gone into a hibernation mode.
I believe St. Thomas is out of timeouts, so this would be the situation where we might see Braun come out of the net.
Gophers are going to have to press out defensively.
There's Danny Burke on the near wing, freshman attackman from Edina High School.
Both teams substituting here with the final minute of play.
Passing it off to his brother David Burke. Gets it up top.
David Dickey on the ball here, a good one-on-one defender.
We've got a timer on call here by the referees, noting, of course, that St. Thomas is making no attempt to go to the net.
We've got a timeout here. St. Thomas, they did have one in the bag with 31 seconds remaining in this fourth quarter play. St. Thomas 10, Minnesota 9. This is definitely coming down to the final seconds. And you look back at the history of this game, Dustin, and all the turnovers, all the unforced errors, and the mistakes, but also all the good lacrosse we've seen all come down to the 31 seconds of play left.
Yep, of course, St. Thomas still probably not attempting too much to go to the net. If they get an open look, I think they might take it just to ice this game, but the timer on should carry over the timeout, that is, so I'm not sure where they are in that 30-second timer, but it's got to be around 25, maybe even as low as 20 seconds remaining on that timer. So that, of course, means that they have 20 seconds to get a shot on net, which is defined as hitting the post or hitting the goaltender, of course, going in the net. If they fail to do any of those things with the remaining timer, then they will instantly lose possession. And if I was keeping track of that right, that would give the Gophers about a 5 to 10 second opportunity to bring it down, but of course they're going to try and get the ball out much sooner than that. The ball should start in the far wing, maybe the top corner.
You know, in this situation, you're going to see some offenses, Rob Horn running creative offense, but also fundamentally sound. You might see St. Thomas come out here and take a quick shot and miss high and wide and just make sure they back up their own ball to finish this game off. You can shoot as many times as you want as long as you have backup, and I think this might be a situation where they could use that to their advantage. David Dickey on ball here for the Gophers, and it's dropped by the St. Thomas ball carrier. Quick scrum ensues.
You're going to have a loose ball push. This one going against the Gophers. It's a tough call, 20 seconds on the clock. Great defense there by David Dickey to jar that ball loose. Not a perfect ground ball though for the Gophers as they lose possession on a procedural violation. Here we see David Burke running around, getting a good look. That should do it for St. Thomas as they stretch to a 2-goal lead with just 8 seconds on the clock.
You know, in scenarios like that, at the end of the game, you see what the difference, the new rules that are intact for collegiate game, not being able to extend all the way out past the restraining lines. Makes the last 2 minutes of play definitely interesting. The final 5 seconds ticking down here. That's going to do it for today's game.
Great game by both sides. We saw St. Thomas come out to a pretty good lead in the first half, and the Gophers doing very well to climb back into this game, but unfortunately coming 2 goals short. So we see a final score of 11-9 in favor of St.